All right, we're on. So I am interviewing Howard Cook. He is my boss that I am interning with right now at Gardner Group. And do you mind telling me about yourself and the viewers and what you do for your career and a fact about yourself?
Absolutely. It's great to talk to you, Gardner. I'm Howard Cook. I'm a project manager at Gardner Company. I've been here since about 2019. I started sort of in the intern role myself, and then about a year or so later, got hired on full time. And I started out chasing government contracts, leases, and then have worked my way to the development team, where I mainly oversee a lot of retail projects, but also help out with our office, industrial, and storage projects as well. But right now, mainly oversee the majority of our retail. And the way the project manager role works here at Gardner is we essentially handle almost the entire life cycle of a project, but we're primarily focused on the pre-development. So the entitlement, making sure that we have the zoning correctly, the deal structure, the financing behind that, getting the loan in place, all of those things we're heavily involved in. And then we still work with the construction team and then the property management team after, in terms of the actual construction and the leasing. But other than that, we sort of do it all over here. So I don't know any fun facts really about me other than I'm a try hard on the weekends, love to play tennis, love to box, love to limp my way through a couple half marathons, but try to stay active. I mean, as Gardner knows, we're pretty active on pickleball here at Gardner Company, so that may be another fun fact that we take our pickleball pretty seriously here.
Yeah, we do take our pickleball very seriously. And I feel good saying that because I'm the champion from last week. So I will want to brag about that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see how long that championship lasts, but I'm glad you're on top right now.
I like it. So, what does a typical day look like um as like your position as a project manager?
Well, yeah, I think the thing that I love about my position and what we get to do for work is there is no typical day. It changes so much. I mean, depending on what stage a project is on is one thing. And other than that, there's a whole lot of every day is a little different. I think just to walk you through what is most
If you like
typical is like,
walk me through like your typical Monday then, or like
yeah, yeah,
what would your
yeah. No,
typical Monday be?
mhm. Well, I mean, our Mondays we go in and we have an all hands meeting with all the departments. So that's accounting, property management, legal development team. Then we branch off and do our development team, and that's sort of just getting setting the tone for the week. And then that's really the only all hands meetings that we really have. We do have an investment committee meeting on Thursdays and some other meetings, but I think the best answer for a typical meeting or a typical day I can give you is essentially, you come in and you want to, we use Monday. Gardner knows Monday's just a project management software. I think what we do is we try to look at what projects we have and break it into what's a critical task, whether it's importance or time sensitivity, what's a high level task, what's a medium task, and what's a low priority task. And what I try to do is every night before I go home, break in my tasks of what I need to do the next day into those. So then when I get in the next morning, you jump in and you're kind of approaching the day from that standpoint. And then, the thing about our job or our industry is you're constantly putting out fires or having to chase down new leads. So that kind of gives you a sense of order because the rest of your day and week is going to often take twists and turns depending on, what's going on with the project. Maybe there's a fire you got to put out, or maybe, you get a lead that you've got to chase, but kind of organizing that the day into those sort of three or four categories is a way to not get too sidetracked and not be too reactive.
Yeah, and I've noticed from working here, being an intern this summer, that there is always something to do and nothing ever like goes according to plan. Like you always have to remind someone something, and there's always pushback. Like when we have like our own meetings with other people, there's always something that we have to figure out, which
Yep.
keeps you on your toes, which I really like. Like there's always something to do.
That's what I think the fun part is. I mean, I think for a lot of people, I mean, it is kind of chaotic in some ways, and I love that. That's what I I think the other team members that work here are similar to that. I mean, and that's also part of a little bit of our company cultures that most people here are okay with that. I know other development firms, and more specifically other just overall, industries might have a little bit more of a day-to-day that's routine.
Mhm,
But the fun part about what we're doing is it's not. But on the flip side, that it's hard because you need to balance that. You still need to have processes and you need to have structure, and you don't want to just become, you know, a company or a person that's totally reactive and doesn't have a strategy and a plan. So I think really the fun part is balancing the two, trying to find the balance between how do I stay agile and reactive, and how do I stay strategic as well. And my boss, who's over, the majority of the development team, Mark, he really approaches things from like an agile project management standpoint. And that's, I think, set the tone for the team. And as someone that's, had project management positions in the past and studied project management, that's a style that I like. And
mhm.
you know, briefly, just for anyone that doesn't know, and I'll keep it short because I probably am butchering the definition. Agile project management is a lot about doing a stage and then seeing how it goes and then making adjustments instead of, and you kind of break up any type of project into phases or stages, and you're constantly, some people would call it like building an airplane in the sky, but I think it's more of you do a little bit and then you see how it goes and then you adjust accordingly. And it's a little different from some of other project management forms that are more, structured and long term. So that's what I think we do. I think the best way to put it, like to summarize, and sorry for the long-winded answer, is just that we have to be agile.
Mhm.
And that really is a balance of being flexible and being strategic.
Nice. What career path did you follow to your present position, and what are your career goals?
That's a great question. I did not follow the typical real estate development path, although I don't know if there really is one. I think a lot of people get into development either through finance, construction, or engineering. I had none of those in mind. I went to school for um, public relations. I wanted to do some type of lobbyist or, run political campaigns. Um, and that's actually served me really well, because a lot of what we do, especially in my role, is interfacing with cities, local governments, as you're trying to get a project approved or get funding for a project, um, as well as trying to learn how to talk to neighbors and others, and even just trying to manage a project. There's so much, campaign management or PR management that you need to do. So I think that that's what helped me, but most people typically come up through more of a business, whether it's finance or construction type of degree, path. But what I'd love to do is I still like the idea of, I love development. I'd be happy to be in development my whole life because I think it's one of the few careers where you can really make a, sizable and meaningful impact on the community. And our founder Kem is a perfect example of that. But also, I like the idea of it helps you be very influential. And when I my first goal was to be a lobbyist, and I still think that that's kind of possible through um, this career path as well.
Got it. Do you want to? I know you said that you wish you did like development or something like that, but you are at Georgetown doing
Yeah.
your MRAD, correct? Do you want to elaborate on your MRAD over there?
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. I think I think that that's the cool thing about real estate is people come in with so many different backgrounds and but continuing the education, I am about halfway through an MRED program through Georgetown University. And that's been super helpful. And I think continuing your education, whether it is an MRED or if you're in development and you take more of a finance approach or a construction approach, I do think that that's really beneficial if not just for the knowledge you get, but such a big part, and I think Gardner, you're probably realizing this is such a big part of development is your network. It sounds kind of cliche and sometimes annoying to say, you roll your eyes at it, but so much of what you do or how you get deals done or whatnot are through your network. And so anything you can do to expand your network, that's the great thing about school is not only are you learning, but hopefully you're also coming into contact with other people in your field that you can work with down the line.
Yeah, that's true. If you were in college again, what would you do differently to prepare for your current position?
I would definitely have taken more finance classes. That's my weak spot in terms of, just a blind spot that I wish I could do better at. Um,
Mhm.
but but on that point, and maybe this is just what I tell myself to feel better. I think if I had been another finance guy, I may not have stood out to Gardner. I got my start at Gardner because I was doing a lot of, for lack of better words, PR work for Gardner, and that's kind of what got me in. But regardless, I think you have to find maybe a niche, find something that a company is missing or the industry is missing and focus on that. But finance is so important. Understand the how a deal is structured, why it's structured the way it is, what levers to pull to change the deal. That's the biggest thing I would have learned more about. And honestly, construction too. I mean, because at the end of the day, you're building things, so you got to understand construction.
I wish the University of Utah had a construction management program because
I agree. Or
that
even a minor, even if they had
even
a
a
construction
minor,
management minor, like you don't have to be the general contractor, but you need to know enough of what's going on. I mean, and that's the other cool thing about development is you really have to be a jack of all trades. Like you
Mhm.
have to understand finance, you have to understand construction, you have to understand how to deal with people, you have to understand sales. And so that's the fun part. But I was not as well rounded as I would have liked to be. And so that's probably what I would say is just try to be very well rounded. It's one of the few areas where I think being kind of a Swiss Army knife or being a jack of all trades is actually a good thing instead of, a lot of other industries you want to be a specialist. And there's still room for that. But I think being well rounded and understanding a little bit about all the facets of development is the best path forward because then you don't have any blind spots.
Yeah, no, that's thank you, Howard. That's good advice, actually. What do you like working about? What do you like working? Oh my gosh, what do you like about working for this company for a Gardner Group?
I mean, well, besides the pickleball, I would say the autonomy, the autonomy that we have. I mean, and a lot of that's our culture is that, even though I am still fairly early on in my career and I definitely need the assistance of a lot of my superiors, there's a lot of um there's a long leash that we get to try to, if we have an idea, we can kind of chase it. If we want to try something, we can chase it. And I appreciate that. I've worked at plenty of other companies where what you are allowed to do, you're put into a box, so to speak. And I really love the fact that Gardner Company, there is a lot of autonomy. I also think Gardner Company has some of the best work-life balance that I've ever worked for. I mean, we work hard, we do, and if there's a deadline, you're expected to hit that deadline no matter the time that it takes. But I've worked at companies where they just want to see you working, even if you're not, even if you're not really working, if there's not a lot to work on. And Gardner Company is very good about the ebbs and flows. If it's a slow time, it's okay to, not be as dialed in. But if it's a crunch time, you better be dialed. And so I think the work-life balance here keeps our company happy and allows us to knuckle down and execute when the time comes because we're not burned out.
Yeah, I agree. And that work-life balance I've noticed is huge here at Gardner because mostly everyone here is like married and have kids. And I feel like Gardner Company like prioritizes family first over work, which is huge,
It is huge.
which I really like.
And I think that's why you have so many people stay here for so long, is
Mhm.
because they're very loyal to the company.
Yeah. What kinds of things would you recommend I do now to improve my chances of success in your industry?
I'd go back to being well-rounded. I mean, well, I'd say three things, and two of them are going to kind of contradict. So let me explain. I would be very well-rounded. I would not have a blind spot. I would know a little about construction, finance, people, how cities work, all that. That's the number one thing. Then from that, once you have a well-rounded base, I would try to find something that maybe you excel at more than others. That can kind of be your way in the door. But then when people are looking at you, they're not going to say, oh, well, Gardner's really good at finance, but he has no idea how to talk to people. You just need a good baseline for all of it. And then you have something that makes you stand out. For example, I came from kind of a marketing stand, I came from kind of a marketing background. And so I also understood a lot about how government contracts work. And those are the two things that set me apart and made me more of an asset to the team. And I think that that's why I eventually got brought on. However, and I was fairly well rounded. I wish I had been more well rounded. And so I think part of maybe the hesitation with hiring me is, well, he doesn't have the best financial background. So what I would tell you is don't have a weak spot, but then find something that is going to outshine everything else. Um, and then the final piece of advice would be just to network. I mean, I got my position because of networking. And I think a lot of that happens in development and in any job, but development is so important because as you've seen us, it's like you need to know someone at the city that likes you and you need to call them. And, if a civil engineer and if you know an architect and maybe you know a broker, like you need to develop these relationships with people that want to work with you. And if that makes you than anything because then I mean, you've seen with Mark back to Mark has someone he can call at any department in any area that will pick up the phone for him and will talk to him and will help him. And that's why he's so effective is he can get pretty much anything done because he has someone that will help him and he has a network that gets him leads. So, just to recap, don't have a weak spot. I mean, you'll have weaker spots, but don't have a completely blind spot. Find something that sets you apart from everyone else that you can kind of key in on, and then just have a massive network of people that want to work with you and would pick up the phone for you. And those three things, you'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, those are three really good advices. I think my second week here, we were talking about networking, and I could be like saying like the wrong phrase, but you said like if I don't use my networks, like someone else would use my network. So I think that actually like stood out to me. I was like, dang, because I used to not really flaunt like my networking and like the people that I know. And then when you said that, I was like, well, if I'm not going to use the people that I know, someone will steal it from me or someone
Yeah,
will.
exactly. I think, don't be afraid to ask people for help. But then on the flip side, you need to make sure you pay that forward or pay that back. And it may not be to them.
Mhm.
Like I've had people help me in my career that I probably won't able to, like Mark, it's hard for me to really pay him back. He doesn't need my help as much, but I hope that, I can help someone like you out or the next generation too. And so I think, the flip side of that is not only use your network, but make sure that you're allowing yourself to be a part of others' network as well. You know, if someone reaches out to you for help or advice, you know, you need to remember that's you sometimes, or that has been you, and not shut them down.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much, Howard. You are a amazing person and very hardworking, and thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, man. You've done a great job. I'd say, you know, real quick, the thing about Gartner, that the skill that you already have is you, no matter what we ask you to do, you do it and you do it well. And I think a lot of times, you know, even as you get higher up in your role, you can't, there sometimes things are not a good use of your time in terms of you should delegate, but you should never think you're above anything. And I've already seen that with you. Like, no matter what task we give you, you jump on it and you get it done. That's going to serve you well. So we're really happy to have you here, and I appreciated getting to chat with you. And hopefully, I didn't, you know, say anything too stupid. So
No, you said everything perfectly fine. Thank you so much, Howard.
yeah, perfect,
Yeah, I
man.
mean, if no one else is going to drive down to Lehigh, who else will?
Exactly, exactly. You'll drive down to Lehigh, you'll take the stuff over, you'll get the check. So thank you, man.
All right, thank you, Howard. Thank you.
Have a good one.
See ya.